How's it going, Marvel fans? Welcome to my WandaVision episode 1 and 2 breakdown and review. Now, going into WandaVision, I have to admit, I wasn't the most excited for it. I was definitely going to tune in. I'm looking forward to all of the new Marvel Disney Plus series that are coming to the platform. But with this, I just still wasn't mega sure. The format definitely intrigued me, but I just, it didn't necessarily resonate with me straight off the bat, so to speak. So going into this, I was worried some of the jokes wouldn't land with me. I obviously understood where they could go with mirroring some of the storylines from the comics, what Wanda is potentially doing in this. But I have to say, I am really happy with this, and this is going to be really interesting to see your responses, because I don't want to use the word controversy, but it's just like there's a bit of divisive opinion about this right now, and we're going to get into that in a second before I go over some of the theories and details that I really like this show. It has me intrigued, and I can't wait. I actually genuinely can't wait to see how this unfolds throughout the duration of the 9 episodes we're going to get. Because one thing I love about this is the ambiguity. There is a lot of mystery around this, and the eeriness, the undertones of that eeriness with what we truly don't know what is going on yet with Wanda is fascinating. Now, you may say, yeah, but we do have an idea, Boba. She's in her own pocket dimension, and she's bringing Vision back to life, and this is her own reality. Like, yes, but no. Like, don't forget that comics are adapted. These are adaptations. We truly don't know exactly what is going on here, and that is what fascinates me so much. And the little clues that are seeded in the undertones, or should I say kind of behind the curtains of these first 2 episodes, and obviously it's going to be very explored throughout, is really entertaining to me, and is what's keeping my eyes locked onto the show more than I ever thought it would. But with the format of a sitcom, obviously. But that's going to be kept up fairly consistently, I believe, because as you can probably tell from the trailers, we're going to span through the decades, not just like where they are right now, whether that's the 50s, we're going to go into the 70s, the 80s, but there's going to be more things made apparent with the clues that we got. Think, Wanda, who is doing this to you, things like that. Eventually, more or less, the veil is going to be torn. But it's also just enjoying it for what it is and giving it a little bit more of a chance, because the face value comedy of it all, and as I said, I didn't think some of the jokes would land with me, but I found myself being fairly charmed by the show, and that was to a very pleasant surprise of mine. But then, as I said as well earlier, to a fan such as myself, it really appeals to me, because I'm one who really enjoys mystery, the ambiguity behind shows and storylines like this, because with WandaVision, as you should be able to tell, there's something much deeper going on. And I would argue with almost a psychological kind of horror-y element to it, and that is just like awesome. However, though, as I was saying before, I think for some fans out there, kind of jumping the gun a little bit, with all due respect to them, and as a result of them, I think it's almost a bit of a slow burner. But don't mistake me, like, I can understand where they're coming from. Maybe initially, if you're even one of these people who are feeling a little bit uneasy about it, you saw the trailer, but you still didn't necessarily expect it to be like this with their first Marvel Disney Plus show, right? And I technically get, as I said, where you're coming from with this, but I think a lot of people are writing this off already. But I think that's a huge shame, because this really does have a lot of potential, and people seem to be making their judgment before the rabbit has really been pulled from the hat, so to speak. And there's kind of a reference to the second episode there if you've seen it. But I do really want to stress to those fans, or even if you're kind of on board with this and you're still kind of not sure a little bit, that don't forget, as the season unfolds across the 9 episodes, those eerie undertones, the mystery, and the borderline really serious stuff, because it's almost how jarring, how, it's obviously meant to be a sitcom, and then it's just, you have those moments with that lady who came over to dinner, the Vision's boss's wife, and she's just like, stop it, as she's like smiling. Obviously that was a terrible recreation from me, but as I said, that though it's those little bits that are really bleeding through the cracks, that are really going to become a lot more transparent. And those moments of Wanda panicking or zoning out, or as if she's almost like rejecting the real reality and going into escapism mode, into a literal escape into her own probable pocket dimension, or whatever they're really adapting here with this. All in an effort to cope, and I, for one, am along for the ride of it. And I know I've been repeating myself here with a lot of praise But it's just interesting seeing a lot of the reception here. And I think it's because it's the jarring format they've introduced this show and the plot with, and that's just the sitcom style. But I feel like I can see, or I feel like it at least can register with what they're going with here. Another thing is for engagement, I think a lot of fans expected them to do a lot more with those eerie moments in the first 2 episodes, and now we have to wait a week for the 3rd episode. And one way they could have combated that, I suppose, is to release all of the episodes at once on Disney Plus, and then I guess by episode 4 or 5, things would have become a lot more clear. Well, maybe not clear, but more engaging for those who are lacking a little bit of interest into the current format they're introducing it with. And I almost feel like it's almost a misdirect, but not totally, because they are maintaining this style. I just say kick back, wait for it to kind of unfold, and enjoy it for what it is, and I'm sure the payoff will most certainly be worth it on the week-to-week release. But this also had so many kind of Easter eggs in it, so many little references. You know, the first thing that comes to the top of my mind that I've already seen people mentioning, and I picked it up as well, is when in episode 2 you kind of had that moment where the devil is in the details, and then we had Agnes saying, well, it's not the only devil around here. I'm sure she was just referring to her, the kind of stuck-up lady of the little committee they were having. But already people were thinking, oh, are they kind of trying to tie in Mephisto here? Or is that what they're kind of doing behind all of that? I get what you mean, but we're gonna have to honestly wait. Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm not saying anyone is wrong, but yeah, there's definitely more to Agnes. Is she really there? Like, as I feel like it's almost too obvious for her to be kind of the devil in disguise almost herself, or working with some ulterior motive. She could actually be there subverting a lot of fans' expectations of her, keeping an eye on Wanda, but for maybe Sword. And that's another thing within itself. Sword, what are they really doing at the moment? Like, because they're an agency within the Marvel Universe. There's a lot of agency. Sword, Shield, freaking Build, Nield. You get how it goes. This is the thing I love about something like WandaVision. I don't feel like any of us are really going to have a true idea with something as also as trippy as what this show is. Because if it's a straight up adaptation of a certain storyline from the comics, then everyone's just going to know what happens like that. So usually shows avoid that and do try and tread their own path on traditionalist canon, while staying faithful to a lot of different sources and outlets from this comic book. Opening that one, I was seeing what Wanda did in this, and maybe Vision tying it from that. But I still am really fascinated to see. I feel like, especially with the ending of episode 1, where we kind of had that little station of switchboards, and it was like they were literally watching WandaVision on a TV. It feels to me that Sword are monitoring Wanda. Maybe because of what Sword stands for, and it's like kind of the sentient weaponry, right? And technically that is what Wanda is. Maybe through what she has done for this own pocket universe reality of hers, they're maintaining a monitor on her, because she may be doing harm with what she's doing with this world, and how that might have repercussions into the multiverse, and how, this is why it's so fascinating as well, because of it's tied in aspects of future multiverse movies, whether that's Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. You get what I'm trying to go with here. It's having repercussions into that kind of next phase 4 thing that is really making us all get that spyglass out and keep an eye on what's going on. And I feel at least that's why Sword is kind of keeping an eye on what's going on here. That's why we have the voice tapping through saying, Wanda, who's doing this to you? Because maybe they're trying to figure out the state that she's in, even though it's kind of self-induced escapism here. They may have the wrong end of the stick and may think that somebody else is doing this to her. They're trying to get into her, but as we saw at the end of episode 2, when she saw the Sword guy come out in a freaking beehive kind of outfit and turn around with the Sword logo on him, she was like, no. It's like she for a second almost got back into that reality and immediately was like, F that, I'm not doing that, and rewinded everything. And then everything started getting vibrant and color. And I feel like that vibrancy of color coming into the black and white is a sign of things to come. More veils being torn, more curtains opening, and us getting more into the mystery of the ambiguity that makes this show so fascinating, at least to fans like myself. And by the way, I'm not saying that this is a complete Wanda escapism thing. This could be some other whole kind of thing with people trying to induce Wanda into this to get access to something that she's got, whether that's her powers or whether that's something else. It can get super trippy, and I don't want to pretend to be a know-it-all here, because I feel like they're going to surprise the most comic lore fans out there with their own adaptation on traditionalist canon. And that's something I love about comic book shows, even though a lot of people like to bark at the same time saying, oh, that's not the way it's done. Well, if it's exactly the way it's done in certain things, then nobody's ever going to be completely surprised. We need to have a fluidity or influx thing to live action shows like this that make, as I keep saying, it more and more interesting and piquing interest for new and new audiences and old alike. But going a little bit deeper into the nit and grit of how I feel like the first episode and second episode unfolded, as I've already said, I felt like I was pleasantly surprised with the humor. Wasn't so sure. It's like I knew what they were doing, but just like, as I said, I can't blame some people. I still don't know if I would have purely resonated with it, but I found myself, once I just dropped any kind of expectations and just went along with the ride of the show, I was entertained, even by some of the, I feel, very cliche jokes. It almost doesn't take itself seriously to the point of where it is funny, whether that's the magic show, Vision's like inner workings getting clogged up because he ate food, and as a result of that, he had this drunk aspect to it. I feel like the acting was done very well, considering what they had to do. You know what? I actually even commend Marvel for venturing into this for like a Wanda show, because this very reception that some people are giving it, it's almost risky, because you're going to have a lot of kids, no doubt. I feel like this is with a lot of what I was saying earlier. You have an audience who are obsessed with the MCU's first 10 years, right? And then they see something like this and they're just scratching their heads. I feel like it is intended for a slightly more mature audience. I'm not saying that you can't be young or in your early adolescence to enjoy it. It's something that I'm vibing from it anyway, that it feels commendable to an extent that they didn't just do something outright, oh, Wanda and Vision flying through, doing this and shooting out laser beams and whatnot. They're writing a very interesting and engaging mystery comedy sitcom. I think with things like this, it's a perfect blend for me that I really enjoy, and it's a new take on something like this that Marvel's never done before, and it's their first Marvel Disney Plus show. I'm really looking forward to explore the psyche of Wanda, because I truly do feel like, as most people expect, that this is initially created by her, rather than maybe it could be possible that she's been induced into this, but she also doesn't want to escape. But either way, the psychology of what she's doing and how potentially she's brought about everything and anything around her, and the story and her emotions are kind of affecting the outcome. For example, when the husband, or should I say Vision's boss, was choking, I was just thinking, like, why is nobody saving him? But it's just like, when she started to get panicked in that moment, you had the wife saying, stop it, stop it, stop it. And I felt like that was one inner voice of Wanda kind of talking and coping with that situation. And then you didn't have Vision doing anything until Wanda told him to, because he's like a byproduct. Like, we all know what happened to Vision. So he didn't save her until Wanda willed that to do so, because he is technically a creation, if you know what I mean. And as we know from the outcome of that episode, the boss was not remotely happy with Vision, and there wasn't going to be a seeming promotion, right? But then after he went through a choking session and almost died, he says, oh, we'll talk about that promotion on Monday. So it's like Wanda, no matter what, wanted her own story in that episode to come out good for the family, for their perfect life, right? And I just find that fascinating with how what's going on with her is going to be represented and dictated by her to an extent. Stuff like this I find very compelling to watch, because it's not just the face value stuff. There's the stuff you can slightly take off the icing of the cake and see what's inside and in the inner workings of what they're showing you and moving about on screen. But I do think if you're looking at other parts of the trailer, it's highly likely that whatever Wanda's doing is posing a threat, yet they don't want to just take her out, probably not even capable to do so in the real world. And things like the helicopter from S.W.O.R.D. coming in is kind of like them trying to, like, you know, do some reconnaissance into whatever the tripping hell that she's experiencing, and that's why she's getting confused. But whenever they do manage to get out of that manhole cover, it's like she's like, no, and rewinds everything, right? It's very dangerous, very risky, and the repercussions through whatever she's doing through in terms of this escapism could have freaking multiversal effects, and that's probably what will happen because of the way we've heard that it ties into the future things. So I feel like I'm gonna leave it there. That gives a good overall impressions of what I thought of WandaVision, what I'm excited for, why I'm on board with the format, and what I find really intriguing, more than just the face value sitcom aspect of this show. Now, in future episodes, I'll try my best to get down to the actual breakdown details of, oh, this part happened in this episode, this part happened in that episode. So subscribe to the channel if you're on board with that, if you want to see that. I really hope you do enjoy that, right? Whereas this was a bit more of a general consensus and what I feel like they're doing with the show and what we can gather. But I'm very happy with it. It really did exceed my expectations, which is something I think a lot of people should go in with, almost, to have little expectations for something, then when you do watch it, it's like, oh crap, like this is actually pretty good, oh my god, kind of thing, you know? So let me know what you thought of WandaVision down in the comments below. What do you think? You have an idea or a lid on anything that's happening already, or are you as kind of tripped out as anyone else and you kind of have a guess of what's going on with Wanda, but is there other elements going on and stuff that you may have already speculated about? But definitely follow me on Twitter if you want to stay a bit more up to date with me. Join my Discord server to talk about WandaVision in the WandaVision section of the Discord server. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Marvel fans in the next video. Goodbye.